The number one question we've gotten from farmers this year has been, how can I cut costs? So a lot of people will say, well, I don't want to spend the money on a corn fungicide. Today we want to talk about when that should be cut and when it should be used.
Well, let's start talking about the early season use of fungicides in corn. Now, in some parts of the country, this is very popular. In other parts, guys say, I don't have much disease pressure early, I'm going to wait till later. Disease pressure is only one of the things that you may be trying to accomplish by putting a fungicide out early. When you're spraying in that V4 to V7 time window, that's your one shot at covering those leaves. Once we get bigger corn, it's tough to get coverage down towards the bottom of the plant, and there's certainly some diseases like gray leaf spot and northern corn leaf blight that can start very low on the plant.
We're not usually too worried about disease early on in the year, but the main reason why I like spraying that early is, number one, we can spray it ourselves. Number two, you can get by with a low rate because the plants are real small. So typically we're talking $3 to $7 worth of fungicide, and if we're already out there spraying ourselves, boy, you don't have a whole lot invested, so it doesn't take a big return. Many times we're gaining 3 to 5 bushels, something like that, maybe a little bit more. So if we've only spent $3 to $7, hey, the return on investment is pretty good, and that's what I'm looking at.
So that early timing is one thing, but now, rather than waiting until after tassel, we're seeing a lot of farmers that are getting out there somewhere pre-tassel. So in that V8 to tassel window, finding a sweet spot there to get out before that disease pressure comes in, and also to get good coverage on the ear leaf. When you think about it, at tassel, you've got several leaves in between the top of the plant and the ear leaf, and it can be a tough thing to get coverage all the way down there, especially if you're running with a gallon or two in an aerial application. So getting that treatment out yourself at a timing where you can still make it over the crop if you've got a high clearance sprayer, that could be a good option for you too, but you're going to have to use a full rate, not that low rate that Brian was talking about earlier in the season.
All right, so really there are 3 timings here. It's that early window, and we like about V5 to V7. Then you've got the pre-tassel. Then you talk after tassel. Now the after tassel timing has been the most common because we've seen tremendous yield gains when you have diseases like rust or northern corn leaf blight, or the worst one is typically gray leaf spot. We've seen this really pay in a lot of the Midwestern states like Iowa, Illinois, Indiana. For us, the early timing has actually worked better because we have lower costs and we get enough yield gain to make that pay. So I guess the big thing here is if you've never done this before, we would just encourage you to try some. Where we see the biggest response is when we have wetter years, higher yield potential, and obviously when we're going to have disease pressure move in. You just never know when that disease is going to come in, because you have to remember, with fungicides are great at preventing disease, they're lousy at curing disease. So you want to be on the upfront side. You don't want to go out there and say, oh, my leaves are loaded with disease, now's the time to spray. No, you already lost the yield, just save your money.
With a lot of those applications, you could mix other things with that treatment, especially that V5 to V7. We see a lot of things getting mixed in there, but the one where you really want to be cautious is that pre-tassel treatment. You definitely can't have any surfactants in there, and you just have to remember, your corn plants are growing so fast at that point. If you're throwing other things in there, they could cause some damage, so just be cautious.
Yeah, but I will say, every time we're spraying fungicide on our farm, we're looking at, should I have a plant growth hormone in there? Usually we do. How about foliar fertilizer? Usually we throw that in. How about insecticide? When we scout, it doesn't take very many bugs when you're already making the application to invest $2 more in insecticide. We only need a few bugs. So most of the time we're spraying, we're also throwing insecticide in. So by the time we throw 4 things in there, we are getting some pretty substantial yield gains. Now on the fungicide thing, whether it's plant health, whether it's disease control, whatever it is, I don't care as a farmer. All I care about is, am I getting yield gain? Most of the time, like I said, on our farm, we're not getting a lot of yield gain late. Last year we did because it was a wet year, but usually early, that's when on our farm we're gaining the most yield.
Well, fungicide application can certainly be beneficial in your crop. It doesn't do anything, though, for weed control. If you've got our Weed of the Week, stay tuned. We'll show you how to stop it coming up later in the show.